Hello, everybody. Uh, Sorry for the small delay there. We were having some problems with YouTube and with internet connectivity, but we are ready to go now. So welcome to today's webinar. Um, Today we're going to be talking about how to get paid as a freelance writer. So this is geared mostly toward beginner freelance writers, but also doesn't matter whether or not you are for 1, 2, 5, 10 years, whatever. I think there will be something you can take away from this webinar. And I will make up for the delay by announcing a huge change in writing launch that we're going to be that's going to be implemented starting soon. So stick to the end of the webinar if you want to hear about that change. And also, we're going to be having a Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to share them in the Facebook comments, and we'll get around to as many as we can at the end. And for now, let's just jump into the webinar, and I hope that you'll be able to find some helpful information on how to get paid as a freelance writer. So we're going to be going over a few different concepts. We're going to be talking about three main parts to this webinar. One will be branding and how to brand yourself in a way that will help get you paid. The second will be talking about how to charge the best rates for freelance writing. And then the third part is going to be all about finding work. So to give you all of this information, we're going to be drawing this from our No BS course on freelance writing. It's our flagship course. It's the main one that everyone usually takes when they enroll in Writing Launch. It's our main course that we have all this information. And one how do you get writing? If you've been writing for any length of time, it's really a big question, and I would wager that a lot of you haven't even gotten paid for freelance writing. So we're going to be covering that today. So I want to start by talking about 3 steps to getting started with freelance writing. The first one is to brand yourself. So you need to think about who you are, what kind of writing you do, and most importantly, you want to think about the value you offer and why people should invest in your services. So that's something I really want to go over. That concept of value is going to be one that I am going to reiterate throughout the webinar, and I really want you to pay attention to it because it can make a lot of difference. A lot of writers don't think about value, and it's a real game changer. And it can drastically change the way that your clients see your work. The second is going to be all about experience. So we're going to be talking about how to get jobs, find work. And while experience isn't always necessary, right? So we're going to be talking about how to do that and how to get the paid writing jobs to help you build a portfolio to get you even better jobs. And third, we're going to be talking about how to find that work. So I mean the actual tips and techniques that we're going to use to find better jobs and find lasting jobs. So finding jobs that are with really good clients that really pay well and that can that you can have a recurring relationship with, so repeat customers, that sort of thing. So these are going to be the 3 concepts that we're going to be talking about today. So first I want to talk about why a brand will help you get paid, because this is really important. A lot of writers don't think about branding. It's not really something that freelancers tend to think about because it's not really obvious. It's not something that a lot of people will tell you to do, but it's one of the most helpful, most essential parts of being a freelancer. And in some ways, you have to really think like a company, like a business, because that's what you are, right? You're a one-person business, usually like a sole proprietorship or something like that. You're a one-person business, and you need to think like a business. And this is one of the ways in which you can do that and further your freelancing career because of that. So first, I want to talk about how your brand reflects your value. If you're unfamiliar with what a brand is, one way of putting it is just your professional footprint. It's the way you present yourself to your clients and editors and to coworkers, everyone around you in a professional context. So yeah, like I said, your images, your service, and your value all make up your writing. Or sorry, all make up your brand. You're writing it as well. And you're not selling your writing, you're selling your value. That is the key aspect that I want to reiterate over and over again about this concept of branding, is that writing is really a secondary product. Your value, what you're going to be giving to the client or to the editor, is your number one selling point. So please keep that in mind as we move through this webinar, because if you can restructure how you think along those lines, then it's going to prove really valuable for you. And a brand is how you communicate your value. So it's how you how you communicate yourself, what you do, what your services are to others, and it's a better way I think of describing your brand is that it's simply just what people think of you. The founder of Amazon is quoted as saying your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room, and I think that's a really interesting way of putting it. So that's something to think about as well. And the bottom line is that if clients and editors don't think that you're going to provide value, they will not hire you. And this is a large reason why so many writers don't get jobs. They don't focus on value. A lot of writers tend to go overboard, really try to sell the writing, try to say how great they are, whereas the real way is to let clients and editors know what you'll do for them. So how will they benefit? That's the value aspect of it. So that's very important to keep an eye on as we move through the webinar and as you continue thinking about these topics. So the best way to land more jobs and to make sure that people know you're going to provide value is by creating a strong value-first brand. So let's go over think a couple of questions. What is your voice or your style, and what value you bring? Now, admittedly, kind of loaded questions because you can take so many directions with these, so many answers, but I think they're good springboards for thinking about the idea of branding in the context of being a freelance writer. So for instance, your voice and your style are both going to greatly affect what people think of you, and they're going to affect who you market yourself to. It's going to determine the kind of opportunities that you're going to have. If you have a very professional voice and a very formal style, you're not going to get jobs writing quick blog posts about cell phones or apps or something like that. And you have to also think about the value you bring. So you want to think about the goals that you're going to achieve for others. So maybe that means wanting to help a client sell a product more, or getting more traffic to a blog or something like that. You want to have these value points locked down, and you want them to be really concrete. So you don't want to just say, oh, I'm going to improve my clients' careers. You want to be specific about it. And what I recommend is creating a mission statement that answers those questions. So for instance, you could say, I'm a professional marketing writer who teaches others about brand design, which ironically is what we're talking about right now. So this is a very concise statement on what you're doing in terms of value and what your voice and your style are. So if you can take the time to make one of these, and in fact, if you want to do this right now, that would be great. Just take a second, open a doc, get a memo pad out, or get your phone out or whatever, and try writing down a mission statement like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just something to get you started. So you want to think of what kind of writer you are, and what you want to do for others, what value you bring for others. So if you want to take a second and do that now, that's awesome. We're going to move on, but make sure you do this at some point, because I highly recommend it. It's a great little exercise. And I want to reiterate this because I think this is the crux of the matter when it comes to value, and it's not something, like I said, that a lot of writers think about. What specific tangible value will your writing give to your clients and editors? So does that mean, like I said, more sales, more page views on a blog? You want to get as specific as possible and try to make it a measurable goal. So, improving your client's career, that's not really a measurable goal. You want to have something like, You could have something as specific as, I want to help my clients sell 5 products in a week or something like that. Something that's very measurable, because that will hold you accountable for how you're doing, and it will help you measure the kind of value that you're giving to your clients and to your editors, and it will allow you to see if you're doing it well or not. Basically, how will they benefit? And this is pretty much the number one mistake that a lot of writers make, is that they go on about all of their their pros. They talk about how good their writing is. They write a lot. They show off their writing, and that's secondary. It's the value. You want to talk about how your clients are going to benefit, not how great you are, basically. So to help you with all of this, because this is a very dense topic, and if you're new to it, it can be a little intimidating. We're going to be throwing in a freelance brand. You're not representing a company or a product, and you're not really selling your writing, you're selling yourself, right? So we're including this for free. Also give you a little sneak peek what the course is like if you're interested in that. So look out for that. We'll be sending that out tomorrow, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it, especially if you haven't thought about branding before. So now I want to talk about charging. And specifically the amount you want to charge. You basically, you don't want to charge just pennies and you don't have to do it. There are things they have to charge very low rates to get time. The going rate seems to be very low. I'm going to unpack all of the statements. For now, just reiterate that you don't have to charge pennies in order to make it as a freelance writer. You can get paid well, you can charge quite a lot of money, and people will gladly pay you. And if you're sitting there wondering, how the heck do I do that? Here's how. The number one mistake that people make when it comes to charging freelance rates is not charging the right way. So two of the reasons, I'll go into 2 reasons. One is that bad clients. So bad clients really don't like to pay a lot, especially if you get people who don't really value writing. And the second and the more prevalent way that the more prevalent problem is that freelancers are not charging the right way. So what do I mean by that? Well, let me go over the wrong way first so you see what I'm talking about. In the NoBS course, we interviewed a freelance app developer, and he made a very interesting point about charging hourly and how it's a mistake for freelancers. And even though he wasn't a writer, this definitely applies to writers. So basically, if you charge hourly, that's really bad. And I'm betting that a lot of you charge hourly. There are many reasons why this is a bad idea. But I think the number one reason is that it turns writing into just a commodity. And this is something that the developer talked about in the course. When you charge hourly, you're selling your time. And that's a good way to go about it, because we only have so much time on the earth. And if you're selling your time, that sort of cheapens it. When in reality, you want to sell value. You know what I mean? You're selling yourself, you're writing. You're not really trying to sell your time. And there are a bunch of practical reasons too, like, you may not finish a project on time, you may need a little more time, and you may get paid less because of that or something like that. So charging with time in mind doesn't really make sense for a freelancer. If you're not working 9 to 5 in a cubicle, there's really no reason to charge hourly, and you'll often get paid much less because there are a lot of psychological aspects that play here. So in short, in 2018, to charge. Another mistake is basing your prices off the going rate. And this is because, the freelance economy has become so globalized, and there's more of a talent pool around the world, and that's great. But as a result, freelance rates, especially for freelance writing, have gone down a lot. And if you're trying to set your rates today, you know how much of a problem this is. There's always going to be someone who can provide writing cheaper than you. Will it necessarily be better? No, but all the same, a lot of clients end up going with that, with a cheaper writer. And that can be really, and a lot of freelance writers think that they have to base their prices off what those cheaper freelancers are charging. But this is a huge mistake. Basically, since all these other writers are charging, a pittance, if you use their rates to set your own, you're never going to make it as a writer. You're never going to get paid what you want. So these are the wrong ways to think about payment and setting your rates. So what's the right way then? Basically, it revolves around figuring out how much you want to make. And this is something that a lot of writers don't really do because they just want to get paid. They want to have a competitive rate and have a chance in the marketplace. And meanwhile, they're having trouble paying their bills, putting food on the table, and it's really a problem. So what you need to do is first figure out how much you need to make as a freelance writer. That should be the foundational element that will that you should base your rate off of. Because if you don't, then you're going to be not making as much. You're going to have to take on more work. You might have to take on another job. It's a very bad place to be in. So your financial needs should come first. And also, and this is a big one, you want to charge per project. There are so many benefits to this method, and I think it's a lot better than charging per word. Because you're just using one flat fee for each project. So if you do an article, let's say you do a 1,000-word article and you charge $125 for it, let's say. That's one flat fee. The client can understand that it's simple, it's straightforward, it's easy to invoice, it's easy for the client to pay. It's a really simple method all around. And like I said, per word is decent, but it's harder for clients to visualize. A lot of clients don't really understand what 10 cents per word means. And in the end, they're probably going to, multiply that. And that might as well be a flat fee, if that makes sense. So charging per project is one of the best ways to charge. And another reason is that it doesn't revolve around time. So you can take as little or as much time as possible to complete a project, and you would get paid the same amount. And this is something that the developer I mentioned talked about in relation to hourly rates, because if you think about it, an hourly rate incentivizes freelancers who take a long time, because the more hours you work, the more you get paid. But if you're a really, economical freelancer in terms of work, if you get a lot done, if you have an hourly rate, you'll barely be getting paid anything really. Whereas a per project fee ensures that no matter how much time you spend on a project, you'll get paid the same. So that's probably, I think in my mind, the biggest benefit to the per project rate. So that might be per article or per sales page or per whatever. But when you want to charge, I think this is the way to do it. So if you're not already doing this, I highly recommend it. And if you are charging per word, I recommend trying per project just for a change, see how it does. Per word is okay, and some clients really understand what that looks like and what that means, but I think just a one flat fee for each project is just the best way that you can do things. So give it a try if you haven't. And I want to talk a little more on rates. Because this is just such a deep topic, and I could talk for hours about this. If you're looking at publications, so blogs, magazines, newspapers, things like that, they'll typically pay a fixed rate. And more often than not, this rate will be on the writer's guidelines page. But if you can't find it, you may need to pitch first before you can find out about their rates. But in any case, when it comes to publications, you need to consider your own rate to determine if a publication is worth writing for. A lot of writers will write for free to get in a publication just so they have something for their portfolio. And especially if it's a bigger publication, this can get really tempting, because it seems like you could get a lot of exposure and you could get a nice byline in a site that is well respected. But when it comes down to it, if you want to get paid as a freelance writer, if you want to make a living as a freelance writer, you can't write for free. You just can't. So you have to be brutally honest about what's worth it and what's not. So you want to cross-reference your own rate with a publication's rates to see if it's worth your time to write for the publication, no matter the size or the amount or whatever. And this is something that's a little hard to do, especially if you're dealing with a bigger publication, but it's something that you just have to do if you want to make a serious living as a freelance writer. The next thing I want to talk about is another reframing of how you think about charging. Clients want value, right? If you're working for a business, doing a landing page, or if you're working for a blog, doing an article, they want certain things. They want to make sales. They want to get more page views. They want people to share the article. They want people to like the article. Whatever the case may be, a client or an editor, for that matter, is going to want certain results, and they will pay for those results. If they will pay for what they're after, if a writer can deliver that really well. And if you frame your offer well, and if you communicate what you're going to do for the client, then that goes back to the whole idea of how will they benefit, not you. If you do that, then people will be more than happy to pay your rate, even if it's way more than what other writers are charging. And this is how I've gotten a ton of great paying jobs. It's how you can as well. It's a very simple idea, but a lot of writers don't have this perspective because it's not really something that we talk about a lot. A lot of people think that clients just want cheap, or that they want the cheapest writing possible as long as it gets the job done. But when it comes down to it, everybody has some sort of goal, right? So they will pay for that goal. You just need to know how to communicate your offer well and how to frame your entire pitch. And that's what this whole discussion about branding is supposed to help you do, and I hope it does, because if you brand yourself well and if you have that value in mind, and if your clients and editors understand that value, you'll get paid basically whatever you want. And that seems like an exaggeration, but it really isn't. Maybe you won't be able to charge $1 per word or something like that, but it'll get pretty darn close if you stick to it, and if you keep understanding these concepts of value and making sure that people understand that. Now, something else that that is a potential roadblock here that I wanted to address is, what if you get a client who says, oh, I'm on a budget, I only have this much money for this. I found that those types of clients really don't value writing, and they see it as a means to an end. And I mean, at the end of the day, writing is pretty much always a means to an end. But these types of clients who really want to just pay a little bit for writing, they don't have the right goals in mind, and it's not worth working with them. And this can be really hard to deal with, especially if you're getting a lot of opportunities with clients like this. But remember that one client who pays you really well can make up for 10 clients who pay you really poorly. So quality over quantity, basically. And this is why finding the right type of client is important. You can't just work with anybody. You have to have some sort of standards, because as a freelancer, you choose who you work with. You're not getting hired. It's not like you're working for an agency who just assigns you to different projects. You're working for yourself. You're your own boss. So you can choose the type of clients that you work with. So let's talk about that a little bit. How to find the best work. And this is another really dense topic, but I'm going to try to hit a lot of the key points that I think are crucial when it comes to this. The first step that I recommend is looking in the right places. This is already something that a lot of freelancers don't do. And I think it's a key aspect when it comes to searching for jobs. So you want to familiarize yourself with job boards. There are many great ones out there. I've gone over a lot in previous webinars if you want to go back and watch those and see which resources I mentioned, but it really can't hurt to familiarize yourself with all the job boards out there. There are good jobs everywhere. It's a matter of finding the best places for you, finding job boards that give you results consistently, and then going back to that job board for more jobs. Another thing that I can't stress enough is that if you learn how to use Google well, you can find all kinds of publications. So learning advanced search operators, Google that, and learn that because it's a very fast way of finding publications if you know the tricks and the tips. And again, I've gone over these in past webinars. I'm not going to go over them today just because it's a little tangential, but if you want to learn that, definitely go back and watch our previous webinars, or just Google advanced search operators. They're very useful tools that will help you shape your Google searches to fit what you're looking for. And that's the next step. You want to know what to look for. When it comes to job postings, whether that's on Indeed or Reddit or whatever, you want to only consider job postings that explicitly disclose pay rates. And this is more so on sites like Reddit. If it's on an actual job board like Indeed, there's a little leeway here, but jobs that disclose pay rates will always be higher quality than the ones that don't. A lot of employers don't really like to be transparent about what they charge, and that can a lot of the times mean that they're paying really low rates. So you want to see the rate upfront if possible. Now, when it comes to publications, and I mentioned this earlier, you may need to pitch a publication first before you get information on payment. And this is just very straightforward. There's nothing shady about this. It's a little inconvenient, but it's just the way it is. That said, a lot of publications will have information about payment on their writer's guidelines page. So if you can find that page, it'll be smooth sailing from there on out. And you need to also understand the type of client that you want. So the type of client that you work with should be communicative and professional. Clients that don't really communicate, or clients that maybe use bad grammar or a lot of slang or something like that, can often be harder to deal with. And I know that seems like stereotyping in a way, but it's just the truth. It's an unfortunate truth about the business world. You want to work with people who are really friendly, really easygoing, but also really thorough with their communication. And if you have questions, they need to be answering your questions in a straightforward manner. A lot of clients will dodge questions or dance around them, and you don't want that, because then you can't really know what they're thinking. You can't know how to help them best. And that's our initial correspondence with a client. Make sure that make sure they're ticking all the boxes, make sure you're seeing communication, thoroughness, professional attitude, things of that nature. And don't be afraid to negotiate a little and justify your rates if you have to. And you can do that by reiterating the benefits that they will receive. Now, when I talk about negotiation, I mean, if you don't get your dream rate, let's say you want to charge 20 cents per word, and that's what you're aiming for, and that's what you tell a client. Let's say they get back at 15 cents per word, and they can do this. Negotiate come in depth. If you keep them focused on the end goal, they're going to sort of, help. That's going to help them justify in their heads paying you that much. And again, this sounds like a really simple idea, and it sounds too good to be true, but it really isn't. It's a very interesting sort of psychological aspect of freelancing. So to help you out with all of this, we're going to be sending another bonus your way over the week, and this one is going to be the road-tested pitch template. So if you're having a hard time pitching publications, and you can use this for clients as well, but this is especially geared toward pitching for blogs, magazines, newsletters, things of that nature. If you're interested in pitching to those sorts of publications, you're really going to like this. This is based on the pitch that I have used time and time again to get published. Pretty much every piece in my portfolio I've gotten published because of this exact pitch structure. So I'm going to be sending that out to you completely free, just for being with us today, and as our way of saying thank you and our way of helping you out. But we also want to throw another bonus your way, a third bonus, and this is going to be the paid publishing guidebook. This is a guidebook that has hundreds and hundreds of publications with complete information, links to their writers' guidelines pages, information about genres and niches, and all that kind of stuff. It's an incredible resource, one that I really wish that I had had when I started out, and I know that you're going to love it. If you're looking to publish in publications like blogs, magazines, like I said, not only will the pitch template help you, but this will help you as well. It's simply an invaluable resource. So we're going to be sending that out to you as well over the week. So now I want to go into the Q&A segment. If you have questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. We're going to get to as many as we can. And to clarify, the questions don't have to be specifically about the material today. They can more about freelance rates or branding or work for clients. More than welcome to do so. So let's take a look at the question, and let me stop the screen share. All right, there we go, and we're back. One thing that I also want to just remind you of before we get into the Q&A is to stick around until the end, about 15-20 minutes, and we're going to be announcing a big change in the Writing Launch program that I think you're going to love. And one more thing, in addition to asking questions, I would love it if you could leave a comment about one thing you learned from the webinar, and it could be your favorite thing or just something that you want to explore more, something you thought was interesting, but just comment below one thing you learned and how you're going to use it. And I highly encourage you to read through everyone else's comments and see what their ideas are, because seeing others' approaches to things can really help you take your own approach. All right, so let's open up the questions now. One question comes from Donna, who asks about being a science writer. She says, I'm a science writer and I don't know if I can write for a general audience since it's not the creative or descriptive writing. This is a very interesting question. I think it's a great question. So what I would say to this is that basically this question is about being in one niche and not being sure if you can translate to others. So in this case, it's science writing versus a more general audience. One thing I'll note about the question first is that creative or descriptive writing is not really a thing in freelancing, so you don't really need to focus on that. I think the most important thing for freelance writing is being factual, being thorough, things of that nature. So descriptive, yes, sort of, but creative, not so much. So with that in mind, if you're in one niche and want to go to another, it's not impossible. I write in maybe 2 or 3 different niches. So the main tip that I'll give is if you want to do more than one niche, or if you want to transfer your skills to another niche, study writing in that niche. And I mean, really analyze it. Take some time, pick it apart, see what's working. Analyze it as if it were a piece of literature, because it's really kind of it is. And taking that approach can help you really analytical and figure out, okay, what tone is this writer using? What style? How using the words? What of that nature. So if you're in one niche, it's definitely possible to write for a more general audience. You just sort of have to pull back, take a less, maybe jargon-based approach to it. So I hope that helped answer the question. I think it's a tricky question because, in this specific example, Donna asked about being a science writer and then writing for a more general audience. But maybe you are, a writer in finance and you want to write for, a gardening audience or something like that. So it's a really tricky question to get right. But I hope that helped. We have a great question from Mary, who asks, do you need a writer website to get the best rates? I don't think so. That said, I think having a website of your own is good if you want to have it as a place to store your portfolio or to get clients. I think it's really useful. You don't need one, but it is helpful. I think also having a LinkedIn profile is really helpful because that not only gives you a place to put your work and talk about your credentials, but it also gives you a place to network with others and possibly get more jobs. So I think that in some ways is a lot more important than having a website. But having a website definitely helps, just not necessary. Now we have a question from Ben who asks, how long should a pitch generally be and what points should it hit? This is a great question. The first thing I'll say is that we've had several webinars on pitching before that are on our YouTube channel. So I'd recommend going there and watching all of our pitching webinars. But let me go over this really quickly. How long should a pitch be? I would say anywhere from 4 to 7 lines total. So maybe like an introduction, sentence, short, like sentences each, and closing question. That's generally what I say. What should hit should cover, I would say, who you are, what your article is going to benefit the editor. And this is going back to what we talked about today. What benefits is the editor going to get from your article? So in a nutshell, that's it. But you definitely want to go back and watch our other videos because it covers that much more in depth. This is a good question. This is a question from Alicia who asks, hi, I just received a publisher's proposal. How long does it take to publish after the first payment? So this is just a question about, how long does it take to get your payment, and this just varies so much. If you're getting published on like a blog or something like that, I would say anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks. If it's for a print magazine or maybe for a newspaper, it can be 3 to 6 weeks really. The best way is to just ask the editor. That's what I will always say, because editors are more than happy to do that. They're there to help you. So it can just vary, but depending on the size, anywhere from probably 1 to 6 weeks is the either side of the spectrum, I think. So one more question and then we'll conclude the webinar. We have a question from Marie who asks, in your experience, do you find that a client that hires at one rate because of current budget constraints, but there's possibility in the future of a raise when we grow, does in fact pay more in the future, or will they stay fixed at that small initial rate indefinitely? Okay, so basically if you find a client that says there's a possibility of the raise, but right now we have to pay you just a little bit, is that kind of client going to actually pay you more? And this is hard to say because there are so many different types of clients. Some just will say that as sort of a way to get you on board. Other people really truly mean it. You have to take it on a case-by-case basis, I would say. But overall, I think that if you're starting out at a small rate, there's probably not a big chance that you'll get a significant raise in the future. So I would say to avoid those sorts of clients just because it's sort of doing a disservice to yourself. But it's so hard to say because, like I said, there's so many different types of people. But generally, I would say that those sorts of jobs really don't have any trajectory, unfortunately. So yeah, so I think that'll be it for the questions. There's a few more points that I would like to go over real quick. And I want to just take a second to apologize for the delay again and for just the hurriedness. I'm going to make sure to re-record this again, hold the webinar another time and make sure to pack more information in as my way of apologizing to you. Hopefully next time we'll have a better connectivity setup. So a couple different points that I want to go over and then we'll be done. So if you're interested in learning more about this, just real quick, because we talked about how this is taken from the No BS course on freelance writing. So I wanted to announce that big change, and we're going to keep it under wraps for a little bit, but I wanted to just tell you what it's going to be about. And if you're unfamiliar with the No BS course, let me run through it real quick. It's our flagship course for new freelance writers. It has detailed knowledge on branding, finding work, getting paid, much more. Basically everything we talked about today, but in a much larger, in a much bigger context, on a much bigger scale. It's a 6-week course that fully prepares you for a lasting career in freelance writing, and it has everything you need to know. So about that big change, we're going to be changing the pricing structure of Writing Launch. So you're going to be able to get access to the No BS course and our 5 other courses for one low price. And I think you're going to be really excited about what this price is. We're not going to reveal it just yet, but I did want to give you a little sneak peek into what the future is holding. And you're going to be able to get all of these courses, that's 6 courses, months of study for much less than the price of a single college class. And I really think that that's a good deal. I've put so much work into these courses. Jacob has put so much work into these courses. We believe in them wholeheartedly, and we want to make this information as accessible to you as possible. So we're going to be rolling back the price a little bit, and once you see what it is, I think you're really going to enjoy it. So if you're interested, you can sign up for the waitlist at writinglaunch.com. It's open right now to sign up, and if you sign up, we'll get you the information that you need as soon as possible. You'll be the first to know, so we'll email you before we email everybody else, and you'll get to know about the exclusive price first. And if you have any questions about the webinar or anything about freelance writing in general, our email is support@writinglaunch.com. We're always happy to assist you in any way that we can. And once again, just one last time, I wanted to apologize for the delay and for the hurried nature of everything. Like I said, we'll be representing the webinar, so if you're watching this later, you can maybe catch it live when it re-airs, and I'll make sure to pack as much information as I can. And actually, if you have any questions about the material that we went over today, leave a comment below or email us, and I will make sure to include any missing information in the reboot of the webinar. So yeah, thank you all for coming out. Like I said, if you're interested, make sure to sign up for the waitlist at writinglaunch.com. And there we go. If you have any questions, like I said, our email is support@writinglaunch.com. We're more than happy to assist you, answer any of your questions about getting paid or branding or whatever the case may be. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for joining us, for bearing with us. We have these difficulties, and I hope you have a wonderful day.